In this video, we're going to use Rguroo to solve a one proportion hypothesis test. A college is trying a new student registration system and would like to know if there is sufficient evidence to conclude that more than 60% of the students favor the new system. In a random sample of 520 students, 352 said that the new registration system is superior. So we're going to do a test of hypothesis here. As I read over the question, I can tell that we are working with proportions because I have some evidence here that they provided, and it's simply 352 said the registration was superior out of the 520. So our success here is that they favor the new system, and we'll do a null and alternative. So we're working with proportions. So P will be the parameter we use in the hypothesis statement. They want to know if more than 60%. So I'm going to write 60% as 0.60. And our null hypothesis is equals to 0.60. So this curiosity of here is what's fueling how we write the hypothesis statement, that more than 60%. I'm about to hop over to Rguroo. I see right now, let's write down a few things. X equals 352. So we have 352 successes out of 520 that were in the sample. And the one thing I don't see as I'm about to go to software is I don't see a significance level here. Alpha wasn't given. So oftentimes when alpha isn't given, I tend to choose 0.05 as my alpha to do a hypothesis test. So let's head to Rguroo. So here we are. Hopefully you wrote the things down that we wrote on the last slide so that we can share these with Rguroo. So we're going to go to the analysis panel here. We're going to do proportion inference and one population. So we don't have a data set. We simply got everything we needed in the paragraph for the problem. But a couple of things we need to do is we need to give this a factor label, even though we don't have data. So we're going to call this survey opinion. And our success here will be the fact that they favor this new system. So they either favor the new system or they don't. Our sample size was 520 students. And the number of successes, that's those favoring, was 352. And as soon as I click away from this, notice that the gray box below will populate with what 352 over 520 happens to be, which is 0.67692. Also here, what we called a success is now put down in this box. So we're just kind of set it up so that the output looks really nice. We're going to have to tell it the alternative. So we're doing test of hypothesis. We're going to tell it the alternative hypothesis, which is greater than 0.60. So it needs to know the alternative. And we're going to use a large sample Z down here as our method of testing this. And the significance level is 0.05. So that is what I have at the moment. I think everything's set. Let's hit preview. And so it will repeat back to you the 352 as those that favor, and then the 168 are those that do not favor the new system, the total. So it kind of gives you back what you entered, so you make sure that you typed everything in correctly. Let's look at the hypothesis test result. And we can see here that we have The z-stat here, it's using the z-test to do this, is 3.58 right here after standard error. And also the p-value, the probability value here is quite small. If I round out to 4 decimal places, that looks like 0.0002. All right, let's take this back to our slides. So let's see what we have here. We had a z statistic equal to 3.58, which is quite large. So it's more than 3.5 standard deviations away was the proportion, or I should say standard errors away, was the proportion of students in their sample who preferred the system. That's how far away it was from the 0.60. Probability value, p-value for short, 0.0002. So let's make a decision. I like to put these side by side, just a habit I've used over the years. It looks like, this proportion we observed was quite different from 60% up at almost 68%. But the truth is in looking at how the p-value compares to the significance level. And I'm going to put an inequality here. And this is just judging two quantities on one on the left, one on the right. And I'm simply going to say that the p-value is much smaller or is less than alpha, which means that we are going to reject the null hypothesis. All right. I'm going to write them down together again. Just repeating what I had on the prior slide. And I'm going to incorporate this idea that we are rejecting the null hypothesis. So this goes away. So the assumption that it is true has been rejected, which means we're only left with this, the alternative, which if I read that back to myself, it says the proportion is greater than 0.60, which means that in fact, yes, students do prefer. This is sufficient evidence to say that students, more than 60% of the students prefer this new system, registration system. I hope this was helpful. I'll be back with some more videos.